Looks like the draft lottery is out of the picture, so does that mean we just throw it into overdrive and hope for a playoff run?
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, of the Win Column, officially. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so excited to be here to talk about the Flames once again. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I guess we really have to kind of buckle up for this one, because if your team tank, you're not too happy, and if your team let's just go for it every year, you're probably a little happier than those folks. We're going to talk about the state of the Flames, as well as some huge difference makers in last night's game, and of course, this alleged, reported, rumored Ryan Huska extension coming directly from Eric Francis's mouth. But before we dive into all that, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's jump right into this. Okay. So a 5-2 win over the Sabres really, I don't necessarily think it's a statement win. It's great that they scored more than 3 goals. I think, that's a great takeaway. But Dustin Wolf stood on his head once again for the Flames. He currently has a .930 save percentage, which is bananas, considering going into this season, he had only played a handful of NHL games, and no one really knew what to expect from a rookie. I don't want to say the bar was on the floor, but it wasn't. They were reasonable expectations, even with a resume of his. Like, it wasn't necessarily to reach for the stars. It was do what you can, because it's your first year, and we're fine because some of us want a good draft pick. But I did notice again, I don't remember which player it was on the Sabres, and I couldn't really tell who it was anyways, but they palmed his head like a basketball when they were near the crease. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. You don't need to be doing all that to a goaltender. There's really no need for it. Speaking of physicality, though, Mackenzie Weegar had a great fight. He rarely ever drops the gloves, and the way he flung those gloves off, I would have been petrified. I would have said, well, this is it. This is the end. And, Weegar pretty much won the fight. So there's that. But let's talk about the players that helped win the game. And that would be the line of Huberdeau, Kadri, and Jakob Pelletier. Oh my God. That line was buzzing the whole game. Huberdeau had a 3-point night, scored his 19th goal of the season. It was a shorthanded goal. I don't know what has taken over his body, what has possessed him to have this resurgence, and I'm not going to question it. I just want to sit here and watch hockey and enjoy the hockey I'm watching. And last night's game was one of the first games in a while that I've thoroughly enjoyed watching the Flames, even if they rolled 3 lines in the third period. But that's a conversation for another time. Jakob Pelletier doing his thing, bringing the vibes. He is the personality hire, but he's still good at his job. He had assists on all goals, and he's given out all the love to everyone, including Ryan Leslie post game. Just little kisses on the forehead, or on the top of the head. Huge night for those three. I really, you know what you're getting out of Kadri, and it is consistent scoring, whether it's assists or himself scoring. But this second coming of Jonathan Huberdeau is so fascinating to watch, and to watch a young kid, scrappy, young underdog that was on waivers and then called back up, Jakob Pelletier, just have this great experience. He had 2 goals against Chicago last week, assists up and down the lineup, and he's scoring, and I think that's huge. I think it says a lot about his perseverance, his determination, and also the chemistry between that line. And I think that, Huska said it best. Peltz is a player that, like, that was the best NHL game he's seen Peltz play, which is, it's a high compliment. And what I like about him is that he's a versatile player that you can just kind of plop in where you need, like a utility player. And he does his job. It does not matter if he's on the 4th line or the 1st line. He is giving it 110% every single time. And I think that, that speaks to who he is as a player. And it doesn't matter. His foot is never coming off of the gas. And I'm sure that playing with 2 very established players in the NHL has helped him. It has boosted his confidence. He is moving a lot lighter on his feet. He looks more comfortable. And ultimately, that's what you want. Him and Huberdeau have a great bond, great friendship. And, Kadri's always been that kind of, I don't want to say always, because in Toronto that wasn't necessarily the case. But with the Flames, he's been like that center grounding point. And I am so impressed. For Huberdeau to have a 3-point night is phenomenal. For him to be at 19 goals, like, we just need to appreciate this, because who knows what the future brings. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the likelihood of the Flames making the playoffs, and what do you do? What do you do if you are a fan that wants this team to get better, but they are not doing what they essentially should be doing in terms of getting to a draft lottery spot here on Locked On Flames? I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy, you name it. And one of my favorite memories from this year is going to all of these Flames games, whether it was out in Calgary, or in Edmonton, or in Montreal. It's just an absolute blast. Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature called Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. I used Game Time Picks to go to the Flames in Montreal, and I was able to find tickets within minutes. And I used it last to go to the game in Edmonton, and again, less than 5 minutes of searching and checking out. Like, it was a very quick and easy process, and very simple, and I appreciated the great deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are following me on Blue Sky at Just Belmosto. So, going back to the preseason predictions, whether it's at the start of October, right after the free agency frenzy, or after, like, during and after camp, everyone is saying the Flames are not making the playoffs. They are not a playoff team. Their defense got worse. True. They have 2 inexperienced goaltenders. Also true. And they just don't have that elite scoring talent. Also true. But I guess what they didn't account for is Dustin Wolf having just slotting in and just picking up right where he left off with every other chapter of his hockey journey. A .930 save percentage for a rookie is nuts. I don't even know what to say. You aren't going to fall in the draft lottery or to the draft lottery when you have him playing out of his mind like that. And this is what I mean when I say you can't get professional athletes to tank, because it's just never going to happen. They are never going to lose on purpose. It just very much feels like we have to buy into them potentially making the playoffs, because it really looks like it. They have the second wild card spot with the game in hand to Colorado, and I am just blown away at this team's determination. I have said it every single year I've hosted this show. This team are like cockroaches. No matter how hard you try to kill them, you cannot. They will not stop until they get what they want. And this is just another example of it. They aren't just giving up. They aren't saying, well, they aren't looking at it like us. Because they have no reason to. They have no reason to look at it from a bigger picture standpoint. They're looking at the now, the players. And this is what they want. They want to win. They want to prove everyone wrong. And that's the thing about the Flames, is they will do whatever it takes to prove everyone wrong. And I love that. I think that's great. And is this when we just have to sit back and say, well, you're not falling to the draft lottery, so you might as well just kind of just throw it into overdrive and put your foot pedal to the metal. Like, I don't know what else you're looking at. There are going to be teams that are going to be sellers by the deadline, and a name that also keeps coming up is Trent Frederick, who I think is a fine, middle six forward. I don't think that he is necessarily he's not a top line player even on this team, but another spot to fill. But I also feel like there's talent within the organization, so you don't have to give up assets. But the Canucks, we know that the Flames and Canucks have a great working relationship. After last year, I don't know if they'll be making any calls, but I wouldn't be shocked if, they are calling on anyone. The Penguins are probably going to be sellers. I wouldn't be shocked if, you saw maybe Nashville. I'm trying to Carolina is going to be a buyer, but you never know. There might be some surprises out there ahead of us. And what do you do? As a fan, I want to watch good hockey. I want to watch my team in the playoffs, even if it's just going to be 5 games. And that is selfish. It is, because my desire for them is taking away from the future. But ultimately, as a fan, I want to watch good hockey. And I want to watch fun hockey. I want to watch competitive hockey. And the Flames still have a bit of a ways to go before they fully get there. But, if they can find a way to keep the scoring going, sure, why not? I guess now it's just kind of like, how do you cross that finish line? or it's not even the finish line. Making the playoffs is not the finish line. The Stanley Cup is the finish line. How do you hit that first, checkpoint, I guess? What does the trade deadline look like? Okay. And then what does finishing the season look like? It's like a relay race. You have to hit these check marks. And at some point you're going to hit a wall. And something tells me it's the first round. But if they can find consistent scoring in their lineup, if they cannot take penalties, if they get Connor Zary back for the playoffs, I'm going to be sick to my stomach. That's going to be so fun. I can't, I'm going to get so excited. Like when cats get too excited and they puke, that's how I feel right now, because I did not expect this team to play like this. I thought it was going to be San Jose Sharks bad, but instead we are just getting Calgary Flames bad, which isn't even that bad. It's unwatchable sometimes, but they surprise you. And I'm not fully buying in and saying you have to buy in because they just beat the Sabres 5-2. No, sorry, but I think if you sent me and a few other non-hockey players out on the ice, we could also probably beat the Sabres 5-2. But it is the fact that they are not bad enough to lose enough games. We know they can lose, but it's just a matter of them losing enough games, and they're not doing that. So that is something we're just going to have to, hope for. At this point, if you're going to get a middle of the pack draft pick, you might as well make the playoffs. You don't really, I don't know, you might as well get something out of it. And I would love a playoff run. That would be so fun, because you never know what could happen once you're in the playoffs. You never know. But I'm not fully sold on the Flames being able to beat some of these high caliber teams 4 times in a row. But coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with Eric Francis's report on Ryan Huska extending, allegedly, potentially, here with the Calgary Flames after what he deems successful. Coming up next. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. And the FanDuel app is super easy to navigate and very easy to use, and they have a variety of bets to keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, and there's no waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra fun to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And whenever Eric Francis is putting out an article about contracts, about coaching statuses, this man has been doing this effectively long enough to act as the PR person for the team. Journalists aren't supposed to do that. You're supposed to be completely unbiased, neutral, whatever. But the team, we know that the team kind of uses him as a mouthpiece. And they did it a lot last year with the Noah Hannafin stuff. Then Noah Hannafin's going to sign. Noah Hannafin's close to signing. Noah Hannafin is not signing. Oh, just kidding. Never mind. He's going to sign again. There is a reason you're hearing about this. And Eric Francis is going to be the guy that that tells you. Let's see. So I'm looking at the article here, and I wanted to talk about a few things. It was the latest in the season full of successful coaching tactics. So talking about last night's win. A big thing for me is Ryan Huska, says general manager Craig Conroy when asked how his club has managed to hold the West's final wild card berth. I think I've seen a huge improvement. I could tell he feels so much more comfortable this year than last year, which is normal. I remember when I had Joel Quenneville, his very first year, he was quiet and didn't talk a lot on the bench. Then he was coach of the year 3 years later, and we just watched him take off. Okay, so we are going to ignore the elephant in the room when discussing Joel Quenneville, because there's a reason that man is not allowed to coach in the NHL right now. But I mean, just like any of us jumping into a new situation, we probably aren't overly comfortable. We aren't ready to be our full selves. And you just don't necessarily have that same confidence, and you need to get a few reps under your belt before you really know what you're doing. And I guess, Ryan Huska has done a fine job coaching. He does what he does. But Dustin Wolf is the main reason the Flames are even having this conversation. There have been times, it happens with every coach, but there are situations, and have been several games this year, where I need to know why Dustin Wolf is starting over Dan Vladar. Or sorry, why Dan Vladar is starting over Dustin Wolf. It made sense to start the season on an every other game basis and then balance it out if they needed to start multiple games in a row, whatever the case was. But to me, I feel like Wolf should be getting, if 2 out of 3 starts. Of course, if it's not a back-to-back in situations like that. But to me, I don't know. This isn't just the coaches. Like, the coach isn't the one that deserves all the praise here. The players feel like they have a say. In the end, Ryan is going to make the final decision. That's his job. But they know they can go to him and talk to him. While he may not always agree, he's going to listen. And that's a huge part of it. We saw what happened with Daryl Sutter. Players couldn't talk to him. They couldn't be themselves. They couldn't do anything. Walking on eggshells. Players talk around the league, and we try to treat them well. And we want them to say, hey, if you get an opportunity to play in Calgary, it's a great city. They have a new building coming. They're building something to win here. And that's what we're trying to do. I do not see Ryan Huska as a coach of this team when the new building opens. I'm going to say that. However, what Huska has put himself in line for is an extension to the 3-year contract he signed with the Flames a year and a half ago. Conroy smiled when asked if they started talks. No, I haven't, but in my mind, it's definitely pretty obvious, said Conroy, well aware NHL coaches generally don't enter their final year of a contract without an extension in place. I think he's done a good job, whether it's his interview and Taylor Hall has been traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, and this is a developing story. So, there's supposedly a third team involved, and that very well could be the Calgary Flames, because Lord knows that they have all the cap space in the world. But back to Ryan Huska. He does have an edge to him. I don't want him yelling and screaming at the guys because he's always on camera. For some coaches, that's their thing, and I want Ryan to do what Ryan does, but if he does snap, then I know it's for a good reason. Yeah, I mean, I don't enjoy when my coaches yell at me, when my bosses And the Colorado Avalanche just traded away Mikko Rantanen. So maybe the Flames are actually making that first wild card spot after all. Yeah, so basically, I don't think Ryan Huska is a bad coach. I don't think that he's like a Rod Brindamore or anything like that. Like, I think he's a fine coach. For what he's been dealt, he's doing fine. It's not his decisions that are ultimately pushing the team over the edge into this playoff spot. It is Dustin Wolf's performance, but I do think that he does a good job at managing the room. You don't hear about things getting out. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but like what happens in the outdated Flames locker room stays in outdated Flames locker room, and good for him. He has done what he's had to do with a limited roster, and I think he's navigating it fine. But to throw him in the conversation of Jack Adams trophy stuff, no, that is a reach, and I'm sorry, but no. So yeah, I guess let's see if the Flames make any trades this weekend. Stick around, Locked On Flames, turn on your notifications because I will have any breaking news regarding the Flames here on your favorite podcast platform as well as YouTube. Yes, and thank you everyone for hanging out, and I will see you all maybe before Monday if Craig Conroy decides to get to work.
That's it. That's it.